Welcome to St Barnabas Church in Clarksfield, Oldham. Today we're going to look at the huge window behind the altar which faces east. It was installed in 1971 and replaced a much more traditional series of windows that dated from when St Barnabas opened as a parish church. Jesus dominates this series of windows. We know he's Jesus because his halo, the circle of light positioned behind his head, is quartered like a cross. Only Jesus is ever depicted this way. As we look closer, we see he's dressed in the clothing of a priest. This emphasizes that he is human as well as divine. The idea of Jesus as a priest is central to Christianity because it tells us that Jesus is something of a go-between, an intermediary between God and humankind. He brings God before the people and brings the people before God. Jesus here is dressed in blue, which was, at the time this window was installed, the colour of Advent. During Advent, the Church thinks about Jesus coming back to earth. And he's coming back because he's been here before. He first came to earth as a helpless baby, which we remember at Christmas. During Advent, we anticipate his return, but this time as a king and as a judge. So the first message of this window is therefore to say that Jesus will return, and we should be ready to meet him. We now look at the background images. They portray Oldham. As we look from left to right, we see a tall, light grey tower block. It's the Civic Centre, the home of the Oldham Corporation, which became Oldham Borough Council. We then see Oldham Parish Church, St Mary's, then Glodick Church picked out in pink. And all around are the mills that gave Oldham its wealth. Even today, Oldhamers remember when almost all the adult population worked in these cotton mills, and the cotton industry was referred to as King Cotton. In the central panel, behind Jesus, we see the iconic Roxy Cinema, and yet more of those cotton mills. And the right-hand panel depicts the old Mumps Roundabout, before it was replaced in 2011. So the message of this window is clear. Jesus is coming back, not just to the world as an abstract concept, but actually back here to Oldham. It's now time to focus a little, look at the people in the foreground in the middle panel. We see men and women and children clustered around Jesus' feet. He's huge by comparison, they're tiny. Jesus is part of an infinite and omnipotent God, and they, by comparison, are tiny. And these miniature people are dressed in what was contemporary dress when this window was installed in the early 1970s. The message of the window becomes clearer still. Jesus is coming back. Jesus is coming to Oldham, and he may come back today. Finally, let's glance upwards. Appearing above Jesus' head and halo are the words, "Come to me." They're backlit with yellow to make sure we can't miss them. These words appear often in the Bible. Indeed, in the early pages of the New Testament, they become almost a catchphrase, as Jesus calls ordinary people like you and like me to follow him in lives of radical commitment and discipleship. So it's time to draw all these threads together. These three windows dominate the entire end wall of Barnabas Church. Anyone entering, standing, sitting, kneeling, taking the sacrament in this church will see this window. And the window reminds us of Jesus' instruction to come to him, because he's coming back to us here in Oldham. He may come at any time, maybe even today, so we need to be ready to meet our Redeemer, Saviour, Judge and King.